In this video, we'll be diving into the fantastic design evolution of Magic the Gathering's charms. The story of charms begins, of all places, in a bridge club in Philadelphia. While attending graduate school at the University of Pennsylvania, Richard Garfield, the creator of Magic the Gathering, was a devoted bridge player. It was at a local bridge club that he met a group of fellow gamers who would go on to help him playtest early versions of the game. When it became clear that Magic was going to be published, Garfield invited his various playtest groups to begin designing new sets. That bridge club began working on a set they called Menagerie, which ultimately became Mirage and Visions. The Mirage design team, led in part by Bill Rose, had a deep interest in limited formats. They were obsessed with card utility and gameplay balance. Their challenge was a familiar one. How do you make cards out of effects that are too weak to justify even a single mana? This was not a new problem. Another of Garfield's playtest circles, known as the East Coast playtesters, had wrestled with this same issue during the design of Ice Age. Garfield's mana system had created a sort of internal power ladder. Big spells required more mana, small spells required less. But what about effects that felt too small to cost 1 mana? There had to be a way to make those worth casting. One early attempt was 0 mana spells, but this approach raised its own problem. Cards cost more than mana. They cost a slot in your deck and in your hand. Some effects were simply too minor to be worth a card, even if cast for free. So the Ice Age team came up with a clever workaround. Offset the cost of a weak effect by replacing the card. These were spells with minor effects that drew you a card to compensate. The Mirage team, however, found another path entirely. Instead of trying to justify a single minor effect, they bundled 3 small effects together and let the player choose one. Any one of the effects alone wouldn't be worth a card, but the choice between them was. 3 proved to be the sweet spot. 2 modes didn't feel impactful enough, and 4 simply didn't fit on a card without cramming the text box. Commands would later revisit the idea of 4 options, but required tighter, more abbreviated effects. In the end, Mirage gifted the world with Magic's first cycle of charms. Bill Rose later emphasized that these charms weren't about being flashy. They were all about function. In draft formats, single-mode cards with minor effects were always left in sideboards. By giving players multiple small tools on one card, the Mirage designers hoped charms would see actual play, and their bet paid off. The name charm also came from the designers. Much like the Ice Age team had coined cantrip, a term from fantasy for a minor magical trick also mentioned in Dungeons & Dragons, the Mirage group reached for the word charm, referring to magical trinkets imbued with small, subtle power. And thus the charm was born, not out of spectacle, but from a simple design problem. How do you make small effects worth playing? The answer? Give players a choice, and make each choice just meaningful enough. The idea proved popular, and Visions followed up with another 5 charms. Of all these monocolored charms, Funeral Charm is the only one with a real competitive resume. It has seen occasional play in Modern, in decks like 8-Rack, where instant speed discard can blank a draw step or disrupt a combo just in time. Its second mode, giving a creature +2/-1, serves as a removal spell limited to 1 toughness targets. But in a format full of Ragavans and Dragon's Rage channelers, that's not irrelevant. Its third use, granting Swamp Walk, occasionally lets a creature slip through in mono-black brews with Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth. It's not amazing, but for a single black mana, Funeral Charm offers an unusual mix of disruption, removal, and sneaky reach. Sometimes you don't need your charm to do everything. Just 3 weird things that all make sense in one very specific deck. After Mirage and Visions, the charm design space continued to evolve. 5 years after Mirage, Planeshift introduced the first cycle of 3-color charms, using one small effect from each of the card's colors. Each of these charms was associated with one of the block's triple-colored legendary dragons. The blue-red-black Croesus's charm offers a decent triad of removal tools. The blue mode bounces any permanent, even lands, providing rare and disruptive tempo. The red effect is a straightforward artifact destruction spell, while the black option functions as a targeted creature kill spell. Between these 3, you're equipped to handle nearly anything on the battlefield, even if the mana cost is a little steep by today's standards. Even more intriguing is the Naya Rith's charm. The red mode takes out a non-basic land. Green creates 3 1/1 tokens, and white prevents all damage from a single source. All 3 effects are situationally useful, and each stands out. A few years after Planeshift, Onslaught returned to monocolored charms, but with a tribal twist befitting that block. Each card contained one effect that referenced a creature type central to the set. Piety Charm for soldiers, Misery Charm for clerics, Fever Charm for wizards, Vitality Charm for beasts, and Trickery Charm for the type of your choice. Then, in 2007, came Planar Chaos, a set built around an alternate version of the color pie. These were monocolored charms where the first option was an effect that was central to that color, the second option was an effect that still technically fit into that color, but only secondarily, while the third effect sat just outside of what that color can usually do. The final option was philosophically compatible with the color, but mechanically off-pie. For instance, the Green Evolution charm offers 3 deceptively useful options. First, it can search your library for a basic land and put it into your hand, similar to Lay of the Land, but at instant speed. Second, it allows you to return a creature from your graveyard to your hand, a move with endless synergy potential. The third option, giving a creature flying until end of turn, might seem random, but it can be a lethal surprise in Commander, especially with high-power attackers, or commanders aiming for the final damage. Then there's the mono-white Dawn charm, which functions as a fog, stopping combat damage for a turn. It can also regenerate a creature, protecting it from destruction, and it can counter a spell that specifically targets you, making it excellent against burn or direct damage finishes. For just 2 mana, Dawn Charm offers a flexible way to survive a wide variety of threats, and that versatility makes it a powerful, underrated gem. Finally, the blue Piracy charm is simply a color-shifted funeral charm. A little over a year after Planar Chaos, Shards of Alara revisited 3-color charms again, this time aligning with the 5 allied color shards. These charms quickly became EDH favorites and limited game breakers. Flavor-wise, each felt like a microcosm of its homeworld. Next were the Ravnica guild charms of Gatecrash. Each of them features one mode from each color's mechanical identity, and a third mode that both colors share, effectively something you'd see on a hybrid card. The best of these are the Boros, Izzet, and Rakdos charms. Rakdos Charm is a shining example of a card whose power is entirely contextual. It's often relegated to sideboards, but in the right matchup, it can be devastating. Graveyard Hate at instant speed is a direct hit to strategies like Dredge, Living End, and Snapcaster Mage. Artifact Destruction is typically a dead draw, unless you're hitting something like Cranial Plating, Ensnaring Bridge, or Spellskite, in which case it might be game-winning. The third mode, 1 damage per creature to its controller, might look like niche anti-token tech, but it was infamously lethal against Splinter Twin combos. Blue-Red gets Izzet Charm, a classic that remains a favorite among Spellslinger decks, in formats like Pioneer and to a lesser degree Modern, and it's easy to see why. For just 2 mana, you choose between a narrow counterspell, a lightning bolt blight, or a version of faithless looting without the flashback. In short, it offers a surgical toolkit for reactive decks. Izzet Charm may not be overpowered, but it's exactly the kind of subtle glue card that holds a reactive game plan together, especially in slower mid-range or control decks that want to keep their options open. Then there's Boros Charm, which isn't just the best charm, it might be one of the most pushed modal spells ever printed. While charms are usually valuable for their flexibility, this one is played almost entirely for its first mode, 4 damage to the face at instant speed for 2 mana. That's already excellent in Modern Burn, often functioning as a faster lava axe, but that's just the beginning. The second mode, granting indestructibility to all your permanents, is absurdly powerful in a format full of sweepers. The third option, giving a creature double strike, also outpaces dedicated cards like Double Cleave. The fact that all 3 modes would be worth consideration on their own makes this charm feel less like a utility spell and more like a constructed staple with 2 bonus tricks attached. With nearly 90,000 commander decks running it, and a proven track record in modern burn strategies, Boros Charm's power is undeniable. A year later, in a parallel to Shards of Alara, the first Khans block gave us 3 colored charms for each of the clans, completing the triple colored cycle. While some of them were decent in standard, none has really made a lasting impression in Eternal formats. Next, in 2022, Streets of New Capenna gave us another cycle of triple-colored charms for each of the plane's crime syndicates. The most memorable of them is Obscura Charm, which provides an impressive suite of abilities. It can recur a broad range of low-cost multicolored permanents from your graveyard, it can function as a downgraded version of Hero's Downfall, and it can counter a non-creature spell if necessary. Thus far, we've mostly focused on the mechanics of charms, but they also serve a flavor purpose. By giving each charm to a color pair, shard, or wedge, wizards let mechanics express philosophy. Suddenly, a charm wasn't just a toolbox, it was a thesis statement. What does Grixis do best? What defines Bant? How do Azorius and Rakdos see the world differently? As a result, charms have quietly become some of the most flavor-rich cards in Magic, not through paragraphs of lore, but through action. They show what each faction believes and how they fight. In addition to these cycles, there have also been a handful of standalone charms in recent years. A fun one is Umezawa's Charm from Modern Horizons, which playfully pays tribute to the 3 effects built into the character's famous equipment. That same set also gave us Archmage's Charm. If your mana base can handle it, this card is devastatingly efficient. Archmage's Charm shows up in Historic more than Modern these days, but in Mono Blue or Azorius lists, it's exceptional. You get a 3 mana counterspell, card draw, or, perhaps best of all, the ability to steal a cheap annoying permanent like Soul Ring or Mana Crypt. Functioning as the green half of a rumored super cycle, Archdruid's Charm stands shoulder to shoulder with its blue counterpart. While it lists 3 modes, in practice it offers closer to 5. You can tutor a land to hand or battlefield, fight a creature at instant speed, destroy an artifact, remove an enchantment, or drop a +1/+1 counter. It's like a toolbox stuffed into one card. Efficient, flexible, and a green mage's dream. The most recent charm arrived in Modern Horizons 3. The mono-white Thraben charm quietly covers a lot of ground. In creature-heavy strategies, it serves as a serviceable removal tool. It can also blow up an enchantment when needed, and offers instant speed graveyard disruption in a pinch. It's like a white spot removal spell with a flexible sideboard built in, Versatile, compact, and surprisingly effective across multiple axes. Not for nothing, it's become a pauper staple, and occasionally shows up in modern lists too. All this means that charms have become a well-known and beloved element of Magic over the last 20 plus years. They have spawned spin-offs like the commands, which offer 4 options and ask you to choose 2, and the confluences, which ask you to pick 3 but let you choose the same mode more than once. Lastly, in EDH, there are the wills, which serve up 2 options and let you choose 1, unless you control a commander, in which case you get both. There are even some creatures that playfully reference the charms, like Charming Prince from Throne of Eldraine and Charming Scoundrel from Wilds of Eldraine, creatures with a trimodal ETB effect. The most recent playful riff on charms can be found in the Mystery Booster playtest card Boros Charm, which literally lets you pick from among 3 iconic green spells. A glimpse of what future charm designs might one day look like. However, all this mechanical complexity makes charms difficult to evaluate, especially in a vacuum. The main appeal of charms is that their modal structure lets you main deck silver bullets without dead draws. You don't want a charm that offers 3 counterspell options, or 3 combat tricks. You want tools for different matchups, different phases of the game, different board states. In fact, the best charms often include effects you'd never run as standalone cards. Take Temur Charm's Creatures with Power 3 or less can't block mode. You'd never run that on its own, but on a modal spell, it provides reach that can win games. In other words, charms make narrow but high upside effects safe to play. So why do these cards feel so good to play, even when they're not the flashiest? It's because they inject agency into the simplest moments. Because they reward players who anticipate rather than just react. Because they make each card feel like a mini puzzle. 3 branches, 1 timeline. Charms usually aren't exciting. They're not mythics, they're rarely first picks. But they are, in their own way, some of the most replayable cards in Magic. Because Magic, at its best, is a game of decisions. Big or small, every play is a question. And sometimes the most elegant answer is simply, choose one. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and consider subscribing to my Patreon. As always, thanks for watching.